We'll start the meeting with karakia from Councillor Templeton.
Kia ora koutou. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga. Kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai. E hi ake ana te atakura. He tio, he huka, he hauhu, ti hei, mauri ora.
I'm unaware of any apologies. There have been no declarations of interest. Confirmation of the previous minutes from the 9th of September. Does someone want to move them? Councillor Templeton, Councillor Koga, all those in favour?
Aye.
There's no public forum or deputations or petitions. We'll move to item 7, which is the Schedule 1 Clause 25 decision on the home base extension private plan change. I asked staff to come to the table. So obviously this is a technical report and it's really just a processing decision we're making today, but I'll get you to give a very brief outline of what decision we are making.
Hi, so I'm Emily from the City Planning team and I'm processing the private plan change for Council.
My name is Cedric Cairnsay. I'm a solicitor at Battle Finlay on secondment with the City Council.
Mark Stevenson, City Planning.
So the home base extension private plan change has been lodged with Council on the 1st of July. It was lodged by Reef Build Properties Limited and is primarily to change the zoning of the site north of the existing home base site from residential suburban to commercial retail park. At the moment we are seeking from you a decision on clause 25 of the RMA and that's with regards to how the private plan change will be processed moving forward. There are 4 options available to you: to adopt the request, to accept the request, to reject the request, or to treat it as a resource consent. To accept the request would mean that the request proceeds to public notification with the costs falling to the applicant. It is staff's recommendation that the request is accepted for processing. The basis for this is the cost to the ratepayers. It allows the public to have their say and it is the legally robust option. Following this decision, the next steps, if the request is to be adopted or accepted, is to advise the applicant and to proceed with public notification.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Okay, I'm happy to move it. Is there someone? Jake? I'll put the item. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Item 8, the omnibus plan change to the Christchurch district plan notification. I'd just like to add before staff begin to introduce this item, I'd like to acknowledge Councillor Johansson, who's put forward a few changes that he would have liked to see put into this resolution. Unfortunately, obviously this is not the right time to do that, but there will be another opportunity, I understand, early next year, and obviously staff have this list of potential district plan changes that Councillor Johansson has mentioned, and we'll obviously respond to him whether it is appropriate to go through that process as well.
Thank you. So this report relates to proposed plan change 5. It is seeking approval to notify that plan change. Proposed plan change 5 seeks to address an array of issues that have been identified through implementation, and many of those changes are to reflect the outcomes anticipated by the district plan, to manage adverse effects arising and to clarify what was intended. The package of plan changes are identified 5A through 5I to recognise that it is a package of quite distinct and varied topics and to clearly define each part of it. And given the timing of, given the stage we're at of seeking approval to notify this plan change, any additions to this plan change would cause delay. That would potentially also delay notification to after Christmas. Whilst there are the matters that Councillor Johansson has sought for addition, whilst council staff have some concern about the issues arising with some of those changes, we'd be happy to consider those further and discuss them as part of the scope for a second omnibus plan change proposed for the first half of next year.
Excellent, thank you very much. Are there any questions that relate to the changes that we have in front of us? Yanni?
Yeah, I was just trying to understand about the Kate Shepherd house. Initially, in our briefing, we were told it was the concern of neighbours about the impacts of the events, but the proposal seems to be extending and widening the activity. So I was just kind of wondering how that one's just got so much, like who put that one forward and how is that one able to progress, and the Avebury house, which the community board raised in a year and a half ago, still hasn't progressed.
So the how that site of Kate Shepherd House was identified, staff as part of this proposed plan change had identified an error on the planning maps. The site of Kate Shepherd House has both a residential zoning and zoning as tertiary education, which is an error. Through early engagement with Heritage New Zealand, we understood what the proposed use of Kate Shepherd House was, and through collaboration identified scope for enabling activities that are not otherwise provided for by the rules. And when we came to see you to brief you on that, it was in the context of pre-notification engagement that we'd undertaken. Some neighbours had raised concern, and we've considered changes to the proposal in light of that feedback.
So, like, so we've got our own council having resolutions to do stuff around Avebury, and I guess I'm trying to understand why they haven't been captured in this process.
Right. So in terms of Avebury, that's not a district plan matter. So we've talked to the Parks team. That is a Reserves Act matter. So I understand there's a community board resolution for Avebury House, and that is being progressed by the Parks team. So that won't be able to be addressed by the district plan, but right. That is in train.
So there's nothing about it being a heritage listing like Kate Shepherd that would limit the activities that could happen?
No, so the heritage listing doesn't limit the activities. It's a Parks matter as to what can occur.
That's good to hear. Yeah, and I just wanted to check on the other one that was raised was the Ruru Road.
Sorry, Yanni, could we just stick to actually questions relating to what the changes are in front of us, not ones that you've put forward? Staff have them now, and they'll respond at the right time.
But like last time we got briefed.
No, it's not.
This was
for
raised.
This meeting. It's not for this meeting, unless it's a plan change in front of us. It's not for this.
So when we last got briefed on this plan change,
it's not.
We were asked for feedback.
It's not for this item.
Sorry,
it's not for. Sorry, I've said it's not for this item.
So
do you have any other questions?
Yeah. Can I ask what happened to the feedback from the last briefing on this?
No, sorry, you don't have to answer that. Is there any other questions? Right. Would someone like to move it?
So it just gets ignored.
No. Do you want to move? Yeah, Melanie's moving it. Tim's seconding it. Any debate? Yanni?
Yeah. I think we really need to think about how we do planning. I mean, this is really frustrating that community raise things with us and we don't have any process to put them into what should be a really straightforward plan change. There's a lot of things in here which make a lot of sense, which, I agree with. But what I find frustrating is small things that we've raised through this process just get dropped off and don't get actioned. And now we get into a situation where we're spending all this time and money on this plan change, and yet some really simple things that we could do that would improve things for local communities are just not captured. So I can't quite understand why the reluctance to take on board feedback, which is really simple feedback, through this process to make changes. The other thing is I can't believe that we're not addressing the strategic directions chapter of our district plan. That was put in by central government appointed independent commissioners verbatim from a statement of expectation that was questionable at the time, to reduce notification, to reduce the need for consents, and to reduce urban design requirements. And we've repeatedly raised it through this process, and yet we just have got nowhere. So I'm sort of struggling to understand why this is only sort of addressing half of the things that have been raised, and why we would delay other things happening into the future when they're having an immediate impact on people. I mean, to ask for like Ruru Road, a small section of Ruru Road, to be reclassified shouldn't be a major issue. So I'm really struggling with this. Like, there's a lot of good stuff in here, but it does seem kind of weird that we just have no mechanism to get things done when there've been like resolutions through the board or through public meetings almost a year and a half ago.
Tim?
I think for the community there must be a confusion, because the Avery House and Centennial Park are under the Reserves Act, and those are the issues. It's almost like a handbrake, and it just everything just stops. And we can probably the community want to do things, they can't. So I think there has to be a bit of clarity about the different processes for different standards or different areas like the Reserves Act, etc. So there is a wee bit of confusion in our communities, but it is that transpires into a frustration of elected members. So I think what I would like is some kind of discussion with the parks and about how we can move quickly or quickly respond to the communities when it comes to the Reserves Act, because I see this as separate to that. So thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Yanni. Anyone else? I'd just quickly like to acknowledge staff and the work they've done on this. Is obviously a lot of work if you see how long the item actually is. I think we've acknowledged that obviously Councillor Johansson has put forward a number of items that he thinks should have been already on this list. Obviously now's not the day to actually make a decision on them, but obviously you're now aware of it, and it's important that actually that gets fed back about where it's going to be. But I'll put the item. All those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. Item 9 is the bi-monthly transport. Well, it's been a bit longer than bi-monthly, but it's just move it. Okay. And Sarah will second it. So Tim's moving it. Yeah, and Sarah's. I think we'll take it as read, and we'll just probably open it up for questions, because I'm sure there'll be a couple of questions. No? Okay. Good. Excellent. Any debate? Thank you. All those in favour? Any opposed? Carried.
Yeah. Why?
No questions on cycles?
Yes. Yeah, that must be.
Do it June. So just a couple of minutes before
Oh, that's a briefing anyway, so that's the end of the meeting. Let's close the meeting with a karakia from Councillor Templeton.
Te tinana, te wairua I te awa takata. Koe ro o rongo, whakaeria ki ata. Homie hui e, tai ki e. What a nice line.
We've obviously got a